Ever feel like you're just drowning in distractions these days? Like seriously, everywhere you turn, there's something beeping or buzzing or flashing, trying to grab your attention.
It's like we're living in this constant state of information overload.
Exactly. And today we're diving deep into a book that tackles this head-on deep work by Cal Newport.
Ah, Cal Newport.
Yeah,
He's not just some productivity guru.
right. He's actually a computer science professor at Georgetown University.
Which gives him, I think, a really unique perspective on this whole thing because he understands how technology is literally rewiring our brains.
That's a good point. So, deep work, what exactly are we talking about here?
Well, in a nutshell, Newport defines deep work as, and I'm quoting here, professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to their limit.
Okay, so it's not just like, powering through your to-do list.
No, no, it's much more than that. These efforts, as Newport says, create new value, they improve your skill, and they're hard for others to replicate.
So it's about producing work that's truly valuable, not just busy work.
Exactly. Think about those moments when you're really in the zone,
Yeah.
like when you're coding or writing, or maybe you're strategizing a marketing campaign.
Yeah, yeah. Times when you're completely absorbed in what you're doing.
That's deep work in action.
So why is deep work like a superpower, especially now?
Well, think about it. As technology automates more and more routine tasks, the ability to actually focus, to think critically, to generate creative ideas.
That becomes even more valuable.
Exactly. It's the difference between, say, being replaced by a robot
Oh, wow.
versus being the one who programs the robot.
Okay, I see your point.
And here's the thing. Because our world is so distracting, deep work is becoming really rare. And that makes it even more valuable. Those who can do it, they really stand out from the crowd.
It's like having a hidden talent, right? Like a secret weapon that gives you a competitive edge.
Exactly. And a great example of this is Adam Grant. He's a top business professor at Wharton.
I've heard of him, yeah.
He's insanely productive. But here's the thing. He intentionally batches his shallow work, things like teaching, email, meetings.
So he groups them together.
Exactly, into specific months to free up big chunks of time for uninterrupted research and writing.
So he's literally engineering his schedule to make time for deep work.
He is.
That's pretty impressive.
Oh,
But I have to admit, sometimes I feel like our work environments are almost designed to sabotage our focus.
oh, tell me about it.
I mean, open offices, constant emails, this expectation that we're always on. It's like a recipe for distraction.
It is. And you're hitting on a really crucial point here. The design of a lot of modern workplaces actually makes deep work harder.
It's not just us, that.
No, it's not just a lack of willpower or anything. We're constantly bombarded with stimuli that just fragment our attention.
That makes me feel a little better, actually.
And this brings us to a key distinction that Newport makes in his book. The difference between what he calls shallow work and deep work.
Okay, so shallow work. I feel like I know what you're talking about, but give me an example.
Well, have you ever had those days where you feel super busy all day long, but at the end of the day, you're like, what did I actually accomplish?
Oh, all the time.
That's often shallow work in action.
So shallow work is kind of deceptive then.
It is, because it feels productive. We're checking things off our list. We're responding quickly to emails, attending meetings.
We look busy.
Exactly. But are we actually creating anything of value? Are we really pushing ourselves to learn and grow?
That's a good question.
And that's where deep work comes in.
It's like shallow work is the junk food of productivity,
Yes,
and deep work is the nutritious meal.
I love that analogy.
It takes more effort to prepare and consume, but it actually fuels your mind for high-level work.
That's a great way to think about it. And this is where Newport's background in computer science comes in, I think, because he argues that our attention is like a muscle.
Like it needs to be trained.
Exactly. And constant distractions, they actually weaken that muscle, making deep work even harder.
So if we're always checking our phones, giving in to every little distraction, our attention spans just get all fragmented, like an untrained muscle.
That's exactly right. And so, just like any muscle, it takes time and effort to build up that mental strength, that ability to focus deeply.
Okay, that makes sense. So where do we start? How do we actually start training our attention muscles for deep work?
You know, one of the things I found really interesting in the book is how Newport connects this idea of deep work to the concept of craftsmanship.
Oh, interesting.
It's not just about like churning out tasks.
Right.
It's about approaching our work with intentions.
Yeah, like we're actually creating something,
Exactly.
not just, checking things off the list.
Yeah. And so how does that actually like play out in the context of deep work?
Yeah, what does that look like?
Well, imagine like a skilled woodworker crafting a beautiful piece of furniture. They're not just like mindlessly, sawing and hammering.
Right.
They're carefully selecting the wood.
Yes.
They're planning each cut.
Mm-hmm.
They're paying attention to every little detail.
It's an art.
It is.
Yeah.
It's about taking pride in the process and striving for excellence.
So it's bringing that same level of care and attention to our own work then.
Exactly.
Whether we're writing code or designing a marketing campaign or even just tackling our inbox.
Right.
It's about being present,
Yes.
engaged in the task at hand.
And not just going through the motions.
Not just like checking the boxes.
Exactly. And it's about shifting our focus from quantity to quality.
Right.
It's not about how many tasks that we can check off our list. It's about the depth of our focus
Yeah.
and the value that we create.
The quality of the work.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that ties back to what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
The increasing value of deep work in today's economy.
Absolutely.
You can produce work that's truly high quality, work that reflects deep thought and focus.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to stand out
You
in the
will.
sea of mediocrity.
Yeah, because anyone can create content now
Yeah.
and share it with the world.
Yeah.
It's the quality of our work,
Right.
the depth of our thinking that really sets us apart.
So let's talk a little bit more about the practical side of deep work.
Okay.
We've touched on a few strategies already, like scheduling deep work blocks
Yeah.
and taking social media breaks.
Hmm.
What are some other actionable tips
Okay.
that our listeners can start implementing today?
So one of the most powerful and perhaps counterintuitive strategies that Newport recommends is to actually embrace boredom.
Wait, boredom.
Boredom.
Isn't the whole point of productivity to be as efficient and stimulated as possible?
Right.
Why would we want to be bored?
It seems counterintuitive, I
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
but hear me out.
Okay.
We've become so accustomed to constant stimulation
Oh, yeah.
from our phones, our computers, our TVs,
All the things.
that we've lost the ability to simply be,
To just sit
yes, yeah,
and be bored.
yeah. And I will admit, I find myself constantly checking my phone,
Right.
even when I know there's nothing new to see.
Yeah.
So, I can't stand the thought of just sitting still with my own thoughts.
And that's the thing. We've become afraid of boredom,
No.
but boredom is actually essential for creativity
Okay.
and deep thinking.
Interesting.
When we allow ourselves to be bored, our minds wander.
Uh-huh.
We make unexpected connections
Okay.
and new ideas emerge.
So it's in those moments of stillness
Yes.
that our brains can actually do their best work.
Yes. It's like giving our minds a break
Yeah.
from the constant input.
To defrag
Yes.
and make new connections.
Yeah. It's like the mental equivalent of a good night's sleep.
Like that.
And it's not just about creativity.
Okay.
Embracing boredom also helps us strengthen our attention muscles.
Our attention muscles.
Yes.
So how do we actually go about embracing boredom?
Right.
It's not something we're really taught to do. Exactly. It's not like a skill that we learn in school.
Right.
It takes practice for sure.
Yeah.
But here are a few simple things you can start doing today.
Okay.
Try putting your phone away for an hour and resisting the urge to check it.
Okay.
Take a walk without listening to music or a podcast.
Just be present.
Just be present.
In the moment.
Yes, sit in a park and just observe your surroundings.
Those are good suggestions.
Yeah.
It's about finding those pockets of stillness in our day.
Mm-hmm.
Those moments where we can disconnect from the digital world.
Yeah.
Reconnect with ourselves.
And you might be surprised at how much you enjoy those moments
Yeah.
of quiet contemplation.
Yeah, they can be refreshing.
They can.
Okay, so we've talked about embracing boredom.
Yes.
What are some other practical strategies for cultivating deep work?
Another key strategy is to be really deliberate about the tools that we use.
Okay,
We live in a world of distraction,
we do.
and a lot of the tools that we use on a daily basis are designed to keep us hooked,
Right.
not to help us focus.
Not to help us focus. And I'm thinking of things like
Yeah.
social media, email,
Uh-huh.
even news websites.
Yes.
They're constantly vying for our attention,
Yeah.
sending us notifications,
Mhm.
tempting us with these endless streams of content.
Right.
Yeah, it can feel overwhelming at
It
times.
can feel very overwhelming.
So it's important to be mindful then
It is.
of how we're using these tools.
Yes, be mindful. Ask yourself, is this tool helping me focus?
Good question.
Or is it distracting me?
Yeah.
Is it adding value to my work?
Right?
Or is it just sucking up my time?
That's a great question to ask.
So if we realize that a particular tool is becoming more of a distraction than a help,
Yeah.
what can we do?
What do we do?
Well, there are a few options.
Okay.
One is to limit your use of the tool.
Okay.
For example, you could set specific times of day when you check email or social media,
Yeah.
rather than being constantly bombarded with notifications.
I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's about setting boundaries and creating some space for deep work.
Space to breathe.
Space to breathe.
Yeah.
Another option is to find alternative tools that are more conducive to focus.
Okay, so like what?
So, for example, there are writing apps that block out all distractions.
Oh, interesting.
So you can just focus on getting your thoughts down on paper.
Just right.
Just write.
That's cool.
Or if you're working on a collaborative project, you could try using a tool that allows for asynchronous communication.
Uh-huh.
So you're not constantly interrupted by messages and notifications.
I can stay in the flow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's about being proactive and finding the tools that support our deep work goals,
Right.
rather than letting the tools dictate our work habit.
Taking control.
Taking control. It's about taking control of our technology rather than letting it control us.
I like that.
So we've talked about scheduling deep work,
Yeah.
embracing boredom,
Mhm.
being mindful of the tools we use.
Okay.
What other strategies can we use to kind of cultivate a deep work practice? Well, one of the most challenging but also most rewarding aspects of deep work is learning to say no.
Say no.
Say no
To what?
to anything that distracts you from your most important work.
Like what kind of things?
This could be saying no to meetings that aren't essential,
Oh, yeah.
saying no to social events that will drain your energy,
Okay.
or even saying no to new projects that don't align with your goals.
That's tough.
That is tough.
Yeah, I can see how that would be really challenging.
Because we live in a culture that glorifies busyness.
Right.
Productivity.
We wear busyness as a badge of honor almost.
We do.
Yeah, so it can feel counterintuitive to say no to things,
It can.
especially if we're afraid of missing out or disappointing others.
It's a skill that takes practice.
Yeah.
But it's essential for protecting your time and energy for the work that truly matters.
Your most important work.
Your most important work.
So how do we get better at saying no then without feeling guilty or burning bridges?
Well, start by being really clear about your priorities. What are the most important things that you want to accomplish
Yeah.
in your work in your life?
Write it down.
Yes, write it down.
Have that list.
Once you're clear about your priorities, it becomes easier to say no to the things that don't align with them.
Makes sense.
So it's about being intentional with
Mhm.
our time and energy.
And remember, saying no doesn't have to be rude or abrupt.
It doesn't. You
Well.
can always politely decline an invitation
Yeah.
or offer an alternative solution.
Right.
The key is to be assertive. Communicate your boundaries clearly.
So it's about respecting our own time and energy?
Yes.
And also respecting the time and energy of others.
Exactly. And when you learn to say no to the things that don't matter, you create more space for the things that do.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
It is.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us struggle with that.
Yes.
Feeling overwhelmed or overcommitted.
Yes.
And learning to say no is a key part of reclaiming control of our time and attention.
It's about being selective with our commitments, focusing on the things that bring us the most joy and fulfillment.
Okay, so we've talked about scheduling deep work,
Yeah.
embracing boredom,
Mm-hmm.
being mindful of the tools we use,
Right.
learning to say no.
Yes.
These are all incredibly valuable strategies for cultivating a deep work practice.
They are.
But I'm curious, are there any other tips or insights from Newport's book that you think our listeners would find helpful?
One thing that really resonated with me is his emphasis on the importance of ritual.
Ritual. How does that play into deep work?
Well, Newport argues that creating rituals around your deep work
Yeah.
can actually help you get into the right mindset and make
Yeah.
it easier to focus.
So it's like setting the stage for deep work,
Yes.
creating an environment that signals to your brain,
Right.
it's time to get down to business.
Exactly.
I can see how that would be helpful.
So what kind of rituals are we talking about?
Yeah. What does that look like?
It could be something as simple as making a cup of tea or coffee before you start working, or putting on noise-canceling headphones to block out distractions.
Yeah.
Or it could be more elaborate, like creating a dedicated workspace
Right.
that's free from clutter and distractions.
That's nice.
So it's about finding what works for you
Yeah.
and creating a routine that helps you get into that deep work zone.
Into that flow state.
Exactly. It's about training your brain to associate certain cues with deep work
Yeah.
so that it becomes easier to kind of slip into that state of focus.
I like that.
It's almost like you're creating a mental trigger,
Yeah.
a trigger
Yeah.
for deep work.
Okay.
And the more consistent you are with your rituals,
Yeah.
the more effective they will become.
So it's building that habit.
It's about building the habit. It's
Yeah.
about creating a sense of intention and purpose around your deep work.
So we've talked about a lot of great strategies
We have.
for cultivating deep work.
Yes.
But I think it's important to acknowledge that it's not always easy.
It's not.
Right.
There are going to be days when we struggle to focus.
We are human.
We are human.
When we get distracted, when we feel overwhelmed,
Absolutely.
what advice does Newport offer for dealing with those inevitable challenges?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Deep work is a practice, not a destination.
All right.
And it's a practice that requires patience,
Yeah.
persistence, and self-compassion.
We're not going to be perfect at it.
No,
Right.
we're all human. We all have limitations.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that deep work is a skill
It is.
that can be developed over time.
Absolutely.
The more we practice, the better we get at it.
Yes. And so if we have a day where we struggle to focus,
Yeah.
we shouldn't beat ourselves up about it.
Right.
Just acknowledge it, learn from it, and try again tomorrow.
Give yourself some grace.
Give yourself grace.
Yeah.
And it's also helpful to have strategies for dealing with distractions when they inevitably arise.
Like what?
One strategy is to simply acknowledge the distraction
Okay.
and then gently redirect your attention back to your work.
Okay.
It's like training a puppy. You don't get angry at it for getting distracted.
Right.
You just gently guide it back to the task at hand.
I like that.
And if you find yourself getting pulled away by a particularly persistent distraction, try taking a short break to deal with it.
Okay.
Like checking your email or responding to a text message.
Like a 5-minute break.
Yeah, but set a timer for yourself so that you don't get sucked into a vortex of distraction.
That's key. The timer.
The timer. And
Yeah.
once the timer goes off, get back to your deep work.
Back to it.
So it's about being proactive,
Yeah.
managing distractions rather than letting them control us.
We're in control.
We are.
Yeah. And remember, it's all about finding what works for you.
It is?
There's no one-size-fits-all approach to deep work.
No, there's not.
Experiment with different strategies.
Yeah.
Find what resonates with you
Mm-hmm.
and keep practicing.
And keep practicing.
It's funny, when I first heard about this whole deep work thing, I have to admit, I was a bit skeptical. I thought, oh, here's another productivity fad,
Mhm. Yeah, I get that. It's easy to dismiss it as just another buzzword.
But after really digging into Newport's ideas with you, it's clear to me that it's much more than that. It's almost like a whole philosophy of work.
It really is. It's about approaching our work with, like, intention, purpose, a real respect for what our minds can actually do.
Exactly. It's like recognizing that our attention is this precious resource.
It is.
And we can't just let it get hijacked by every notification, every shiny object that pops up.
And it's not just about getting things done. It's about doing the right things.
The things that matter.
The things that matter, yeah.
Yeah.
The things that make a difference.
I love that. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into deep work, what's the one thing you want our listeners to walk away with today?
This is important. Deep work is a superpower in today's world. And it's a superpower anyone can develop.
We can all be superheroes.
Exactly. And it's not about, being a genius or having some special talent. It's about deciding to prioritize focus and depth over all those distractions.
It's about training that attention muscle.
Yes. And realizing deep work isn't just about, checking things off a list.
It's about our well-being, too.
It is. It's about working in a way that's sustainable and fulfilling, where you can thrive both personally and professionally.
So finding that sweet spot.
Exactly. Being challenged by your work, but also energized by it.
Yeah, I like that. So for our listener out there who's feeling maybe overwhelmed, struggling to focus, what's one small step they can take today?
Pick just one strategy we talked about that really resonated with you. Maybe it's scheduling that 30-minute block of uninterrupted time. Maybe it's trying that social media detox.
Maybe it's just putting your phone down more often.
Yeah. Whatever it is, just try it for a week, see what happens.
Experiment a little.
Exactly.
And remember, deep work, it's a journey, not a destination.
Right. Some days will be better than others.
Exactly. So be kind to yourself, keep practicing, trust the process. You might surprise yourself.
You might just discover a superpower you never knew you had.
I love that. Well, this has been fantastic. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the world of deep work.
It's been a pleasure.
I know I learned a lot. And as always, we'd love to hear from you, our listeners.
Yes. Let us know what you think about deep work.
What strategies are working for you? What challenges are you facing?
Share your thoughts, your experiences in the comments.
Until next time, happy focusing.
Happy deep diving.